Hello, welcome to Quantum Online Academy. This is your Dr. Nagaraju Pendam. In this video, we are going to one more important topic from the classical mechanics. The topic constraints. So we know the constraints once we have to teach what is the information about the constraints once you have to take. So what is the constraint? The constraint is it is a minimize the particles motion or to describe the particles motion. So there is a because of the constraints what will happen, that particle motion should be minimized. So the coordinates system is minimized. How many constraints are there once you have to take so these constraints are 5 varieties of constraints are there. 5 varieties of constraints are there, right? In the constraints, the first group of constraints once you have to take in the group 1. So there is a rheonomous, the group 1, there is a constraint is going to take. That constraint is rheonomous constraint, and the second group you have to take it as a scleronomous constraint, rheonomous constraint, and the scleronomous constraint. This is the first varieties of the constraint. Rheonomous constraint or scleronomous constraint. Scleronomous constraint. This variety is a first variety of the constraint. Now you able to see the second is what is the second variety of the constraint? There is a holonomic constraint. There is a holonomic constraint. There is a holonomic constraint, and so one more constraint is there in this variety. That variety is non-holonomic constraint. Holonomic constraint and non-holonomic constraint. Holonomic constraint and non-holonomic constraint is there. This is the second variety of the constraint. Now you able to see the third variety of the constraint is what is the third variety of the constraint? The first one you have to take a third variety. In the each and every variety, two varieties there. One is a conservative constraint. Another one is the dissipative constraint. Conservative constraint and dissipative constraint. Now the fourth one you able to see. What is the fourth one you have to take? So the fourth one is you have to take it as a unilateral constraint. Unilateral constraint. You have to consider as a unilateral constraints, and the second variety you have to take, that is a bilateral constraint. Unilateral constraint and bilateral constraint. So what is that constraint? Unilateral constraint and bilateral constraint. So the fifth variety you able to see. What is the fifth variety? Also the two is there. One is a differential constraint. Differential, or this one we have to take it as a kinematic. Differential or kinematic constraint. Differential or kinematic constraint. That another variety is what is that variety? Geometrical constraint. Which one it is? Geometrical constraint. Clear? So these are the how many varieties are there? 5 varieties of the constraints are there. In each and every variety, two varieties are there. One is once you have to take rheonomous constraint. In the same you have to take holonomic and non-holonomic constraint. And the third variety, conservative or dissipative constraint. The fourth variety, unilateral and bilateral constraint. The fifth variety is differential or kinematic constraint or geometrical constraint is there. So what is the constraint? So constraint is nothing but the limitation on the motion of the system. The limitation of the motion of the system, we call it as a constraint. So these constraints are reduce the degree of freedom. So therefore these constraints, what will happen? So these constraints will reduce the degree of freedom. Reduce the degree of freedom. So these constraints we call it as a limits. So limit, this constraint is the limit of limit of motion of the system of body, motion of the system of body, limit of motion of the system. So that is the story about the constraint. Brief introduction I am giving, whole thing I am not giving to you. If you are like my teaching, you go to our app and you purchase my course. There you will get a detailed explanation constraint also. Now you able to see the question in just 2018 based on the constraints. Once you have to see a block of mass m is moving, a block of mass m is moving on a frictionless inclined surface, a surface of a wedge of mass small m. So this is the wedge of small m mass is there. So you have to consider it is a small m mass. So this is the wedge. Which shape it is? This shape it is a wedge shape is there. Small m mass. This is the wedge shape. Now you able to take a block of mass m, capital M mass is there. This is the block. You have to consider as a one block. You have to take that block of mass m, capital M. A block of mass capital M is moving on a frictionless, friction is this one is this block of mass capital M is moving on a frictionless inclined surface of a wedge of mass small m under the influence of gravity. Under the influence of gravity, this block is moving. Now the wedge is lying on a rigid frictionless horizontal surface. This is a rigid frictionless horizontal surface, means it is a fixed. So the wedge means the number of degree of freedom to describe the system. The configuration can be described using the radius vector r1, using the radius vector r1 through block, and using the radius vector r2 through this which one is wedge, as shown in the figure. How many constraints are present and what are the types? Once you have to see how many constraints are present and what are the top you have to take. A rigid wire, so a wedge is rigidly fixed. If it is a fixed, so that constraint we are going to take it as a scleronomous constraint. Scleronomous. So which one it is? Scleronomous constraint. If it is big is fixed, that constraint we have to going to take it as a scleronomous constraint. Clear? Now it is moving attached into the surface. Which one we have to write here? So it is contact with the surface. This block is contact. Which one you have to take? Contact with the surface. If it is a contact with the surface, the number of degrees of freedom is reduced. That is going to become, which one it is? Holonomic constraint. Which constraint it is? Holonomic constraint. So there is a two varieties of constraints are going to takes place here. So one is which one it is? Holonomic constraint. Another one is a scleronomic constraint. Now you able to see the answer. One constraint is holonomic, correct? Another constraint scleronomic constraint. One constraint is holonomic and another so holonomic and another and scleronomic. So not one, two constraints at a time they are presenting. So two constraints, both are holonomic. One is scleronomous and rheonomous. Oh, both are holonomic is not correct. One is scleronomous and another one is a rheonomous is not correct. So two constraints, both are scleronomous and one is holonomic and also correct. So here two particles are there. R1 one constraint is there, based on the R2 one more constraint is there. So both are what we have to take. So holonomic constraint and scleronomous constraint. So both are holonomic constraint and scleronomous constraint. You able to take that one. If it is a holonomic constraint, so this particle is moving, so this particle is fixed. So that's why both R1 and R2 both constraints are there. What is your option? Your option D is correct. Two constraints, both are holonomic and scleronomic constraints can exist this answer. It is very, very important. So you able to see constraints is very, very important examination. In the JEST examination, they are asking this theory question. So all question is theoretically only, but you have to use your brain. Then only you able to identify this answer. If you really likes my teaching, please share and like and subscribe our YouTube channel. And then if you want to take the coaching, we started the CSIR and GATE physics, JL physics and DL physics content we started. So physics content you able to take, right, you go to the Play Store. That is, our app is Quantum Online Academy app. Your Android mobile phone you have to take, go to the Play Store and download our Quantum Online Academy app. After downloading the Quantum Online Academy app, first you login into that Quantum Online Academy app. Once you have to log in, you go to the stores there. So courses will appear like this: CSR and GATE physics course, JL physics and DL physics course will be appear like this. So if you really like my teaching, you able to take. Now the mathematical methods of physics entire portion is available. Now the classical mechanics courses are live classes are going on. This is live plus recorded. Now live plus recorded. So this one is a completely recorded one only. If you want to take a single course, if you have to take, so till now these two courses only existing. So the rest of the days, so some more courses also will added. So those courses will display, but they are not content is there. So now we are under the classical mechanics. If you want to negotiate with me, this is my mobile number 9908437460. You can contact me and you have to choose this institute and get in success in your competitive examination as a physicist. Thank you so much. Please share and subscribe and like our YouTube channel. Thank you so much.